Hello, I am Saravanan Krishnamurthy and I am currently doing my MBA at James Cook University, Singapore. In this video, I am going to present about various aspects of Malaysian economy and in which areas they are actually doing well and in which areas they are actually going down, and what are the threats involved in their economy, and finally whether the Malaysian economy is going in the direction of liberal market or closed market. Come, let's take a look.
Originally, the name Malaysia is a combination of both Malay and Latin Greek suffix "shia". Malaysia is a federal constitutional monarchy located in Southeast Asia. It consists of 13 states and 3 federal territories. Ringgit is the basic monetary unit of Malaysia, equivalent to 100 sen. Dato Sri Haji Muhammad Najib bin Tun Haji Abdul Razak is the 6th and current Prime Minister of Malaysia. He was sworn in into the position on 3rd April 2009 to succeed Abdullah Ahmad Badawi. Now let's take a look at political system of Malaysia. As I mentioned earlier, Malaysia is a constitutional monarchy. Yang di Pertuan Agong is the head of the state and Prime Minister of Malaysia is the head of the government. The Yang di Pertuan Agong is one of the few elected monarchs in the world. The consort of Yang di Pertuan Agong is called Raja Paramasuri Agong, Queen Lady Consort. The couple are respectively addressed in English as His Majesty and Her Majesty. The office was established in 1957 when the Federation of Malaysia, now Malaysia, gained independence from United Kingdom. Tunku Abdul Rahman Ibni Al Rahman Tunku Muhammad is the first Yang di Pertuan Agong. Tunku Abdul Rahman was elected first Yang di Pertuan Agong or paramount ruler of independent Malaysia on 3rd August 1957 for a 5-year term by 8 votes to 1. Abdul Halim Muhammad Shah is the current Yang di Pertuan Agong. He previously served as the 5th king from 1970 to 1975. He is the first person to hold the position twice, as well as is the oldest elected to the office. He is a week older than world's longest reigning monarch, King Bhumibol of Thailand. Tunku Abdul Rahman, Putra Al-Haj Ibni Al-Rahman Sultan Abdul Hamid Halim Shah, was the country's first Prime Minister from independence in 1957. He remained as Prime Minister after Sabah, Sarawak and Singapore joined the Federation in 1963 to form Malaysia. He is widely known simply as Tunku and also called Baba Kemarudin Khan, which is known as Father of Independence or Father of Malaysia in English. The judiciary is independent of executive and legislature, though the executive maintains a certain level of influence in the appointment of judges to the courts.
Malaysia is a multi-ethnic, multicultural and multilingual society, and the many ethnic groups in Malaysia maintain separate cultural identities. The society of Malaysia has been described as Asia in miniature. The original culture of area stemmed from its indigenous tribes along with the Malays who moved there in ancient times. Substantial influence exists from the Chinese and Indian cultures, dating back to when trade with those countries began in the area. Other cultures that heavily influenced that of Malaysia include Persian, Arabic and British. The structure of government along with the racial balance of power caused by the idea of social contract has resulted in little incentive for cultural assimilation of ethnic minorities in Malaya and Malaysia. The government has historically made little distinction between Malay culture and Malaysian culture. Each ethnic group has its own underlying culture that separates it from the others, and they have achieved different levels of integration. The Chinese have integrated with Malay culture in a number of areas, including parts of Terengganu, and they form Malayanized group such as Baba Chinese in Malacca and Sino Kadazan of Sabah. Their years under combined British rule brought some joint sense of identity to all the ethnic groups, with English ideas and ideals providing some unifying features. A joint Malaysian culture can be seen in the symbiosis of cultures of people within. Now, let us take a look at some of the key facts and key economic indicators of Malaysia. Malaysia is a rapidly developing economy in Asia. Malaysia, a middle income country, has transformed itself since the 1970s from a producer of raw materials into an emerging multi sector economy. The government of Malaysia is continuing efforts to boost domestic demand to wean the economy off its dependence on exports. Nevertheless, exports, particularly of electronics, remain a significant driver of the economy. The gross domestic product (GDP) in Malaysia has expanded 2% in fourth quarter of 2014 over the previous quarter. GDP growth rate in Malaysia averaged 1.28% from 2000 until 2014, reaching at an all-time high of 5.90% in the third quarter of 2009 and a record low of -7.60% in the first quarter of 2009. GDP growth rate in Malaysia is reported by the Department of Statistics Malaysia. Malaysia is interestingly the third largest economy in Southeast Asia and 28th largest in the world. There are three main sectors which influence the Malaysian economy. The first one is the agricultural sector, and the second is the industrial sector, and the last is the service sector. Let us analyze each sectors individually. The agricultural sector in Malaysia makes up 12% of nation's GDP. However, agriculture is now a minor sector of Malaysian economy, accounting for just 7.1% of Malaysian GDP in 2014 and employing 16% of population of Malaysia through some sort of agriculture. Contrastingly, with the 1960s, when agriculture accounted for 37% of Malaysia's GDP and employed 66.2% of the labor force. The crops grown by the agriculture sector has also significantly shifted from food crops like paddy and coconut to industrial crops like palm oil and rubber, which in 2005 contributed to 83.7% of total agricultural land use, compared to 68.5% in 1960. Despite its minor contribution to Malaysia's GDP, Malaysia has a significant foothold in world's agricultural sector, being the world's second largest producer of palm oil in 2012, producing 18.79 million tons of crude palm oil on roughly 5 lakh hectares of land. Though Indonesia produces more palm oil, Malaysia is the world's largest exporter of palm oil, having exported 18 million tons of palm oil products in 2011. Malaysia's industrial sector accounts for 36.8% over a third of the country's GDP in 2014 and employs 36% of labor force. The industrial sector mostly contributed by electronics industry, automotive industry and construction industry. The electrical and electronic industry is the leading sector in Malaysian manufacturing sector, contributing significantly to the country's exports, which is 32.8%, and employment 27.2% in 2030. Malaysia benefits from global demand in usage of mobile devices such as smartphones, tablets, storage devices, cloud computing data centers, and embedded technology. Malaysia is a major hub for electrical component manufacturing with factories of companies like Intel, AMD, Freescale Semiconductor, ASC, Texas Instruments, Fairchild Semiconductors, major Malaysian owned companies such as Green Packet, Globetronics, Unisem, and Inari, which have contributed to the steady growth of semiconductor industry in Malaysia. To date, there are more than 50 companies, largely MNCs, producing semiconductor devices. To the automotive sector, in 2014, Malaysia's automotive industry produced 5,45,122 passenger cars and 51,296 commercial vehicles for a total of 5,96,418 vehicles, making Malaysia the 22nd largest automotive manufacturer in the world. The automotive sector is dominated by DRB Highcom, who other than assemblers car for Tata Motors, Honda, Suzuki, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen and Ford Motors. Also owns Malaysia's indigenous automobile company, Proton. Other companies with a significant foothold in automotive industry include Perodua, Malaysia's second indigenous car company, and NASA, who is the franchise holder. Coming to the construction, Malaysia has large construction industry of over 102.2 ringgits. The highest percentage share was contributed by construction of non-residential buildings, which recorded 34.6%. This was followed by civil engineering subsector 30.6%, residential buildings 29.7% and special trades 5.1%. Selangor recorded the highest value of construction work done at 24.5% among the states, followed by Johor at 16.5% and Kuala Lumpur at 15.8%. The expansion of the construction industry has been catalyzed by major capital expenditure projects, and a key factor has been government's economic transformation program and public-private partnership mega projects like Tun Razak Exchange, Skandar, Malaysia. Malaysia has relatively new defense industry that was created after the government created. The Malaysian Defence Industry Council encourages local companies to participate in country's defense sector in 1999. The land sector of defense industry is dominated by DefTech, a subsidiary of Malaysia's largest automotive manufacturer, DRB Highcom. The company focuses on manufacturing armor vehicles and specialized logistic vehicles. The company has supplied ACV-15 infantry fighting vehicles to the Malaysian Army in the past and is currently supplying DefTech AV-8 amphibious multi-role armored vehicle to the Malaysian Army. The sea sector of defense industry is dominated by Boston Heavy Industry, who builds warships for the Royal Malaysian Navy. Through transfer of technology with foreign companies, the company has built 4 Kedah class offshore patrol vessels for the armament in the past and is currently undertaking a project to build 6 more second generation patrol vehicles for the Royal Malaysian Navy. The service sector is another major contributor to Malaysian economy, with finance and banking, tourism, medical tourism and oil and gas. Coming to the finance sector, Kuala Lumpur has a large financial sector and is ranked 22nd in the world in Global Financial Center Index. There are currently 27 commercial banks, 8 domestic and 19 foreign, 16 Islamic banks. in which 10 domestic and 6 foreign. 15 investment banks, all domestic, and 2 other financial institutions, both domestic, operating in Malaysia. Bank Negara Malaysia is the major and the Bank Negara Malaysia is the monetary bank and holds the monetary authority of Malaysia. And Maybank is the largest bank in Malaysia. Malaysia is currently also the world's largest center for finance for Islamic region. Malaysia has 16 fully fledged Islamic banks, including 5 foreign ones, with total Islamic bank assets of US dollars worth 168.4 billion, which accounts for 25% of Malaysian total banking assets. This in turn accounts for over 10% of world's total Islamic banking assets. In comparison, Malaysia's main rival UAE has 95 billion US dollars of assets. Malaysia is a global leader in terms of sukuk, which is the Islamic bond market, issuing 62 billion ringgits worth of sukuk in 2014, or 66.7% of global total of 26.6 billion US dollars. The Malaysian government is planning to transform the country's capital, Kuala Lumpur, into a major financial center in a bid to raise its profile and spark greater international trade and investment through the construction of Tun Razak Exchange (TRX). The government believes the project will allow Malaysia to compete with regional financial superpowers such as Singapore and Hong Kong by leveraging on the country's established strength in the rapid growing Islamic financial marketplace. Tourism is a huge sector of Malaysian economy with over 57.1 million domestic tourists generating 11 billion in tourist receipts in 2014 and attracting over 20 crore international tourist arrivals, a growth rate of 6.7% compared to 2013. Total international tourist receipts increased by 3.9% to 19 billion in 2014. United Nations World Tourism Organization UNWTO listed Malaysia as the 10th most visited country in 2012. Malaysia is rich with diverse natural attractions which become an asset to the country's tourism industry. This was recognized by World Travel and Tourism Council, who declared Malaysia as a destination full of unrealized potential with the main strength as availability of vast range of diverse attractions to suit all tastes, relatively affordable prices, and largely unspoiled destination. Malaysia's top tourist destinations are Mulu Caves, Perhatian Highlands, Langkawi, Petronas Towers, and Mount Kinabalu. Malaysia has a vibrant oil and gas industry. The national oil company Petronas is ranked the 69th biggest company in the world in Fortune 500 list in 2014. With a revenue of over 100.7 billion US dollars and total assets over 169 billion US dollars, Petronas provides around 30% of Malaysian government revenue. Although the government has been actively cutting down on its reliance on petroleum with a target of 20%, Petronas is also the custodian of oil and gas reserves for Malaysia. Hence, all oil and gas activities are regulated by Petronas. Malaysia encourages foreign oil companies' participation through production sharing contracts in which significant amount of oil will be given away to foreign oil company until it reaches a production milestone. Currently, many major oil companies such as ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch Shell, Nippon Oil, and Murphy Oil are involved in such contracts. As a result, 40% of oil fields in Malaysia are developed. There are over 3,500 oil and gas businesses in Malaysia, comprising international oil companies, independent services, and manufacturing companies that supports the need of ONG value chain both domestically and regionally. Many major global machinery and equipment manufacturers have set up bases in Malaysia to complement homegrown M&E companies, while other Malaysian oil and gas companies are focused on key strategic segments such as marine drilling, engineering, fabrication, offshore installation, and operations and maintenance. So, we have discussed every aspects of Malaysian economy. And now let's take a look on SME's reaction towards economy.
2015, with the current, towards the end of last year, with our flood disaster, with our currency falling down, it's going to be a challenging year for the business community. We have to bring down our cost. Wherever we can save on the cost, we have to do that. And then also we have to tap the local markets in a more better way. To save cost, maybe we have to have control on the number of workers we have. Right now, we are using a lot of foreign workers. We have to pay more attention on the workers' expenses. Yeah, GST is coming. We might be forcing some difficulties in the implementation. Anyhow, we have to cooperate with the government to see that our customers are also not affected, and also we are complying with government laws.
Before the GST. For those which are doing business, there is more paperwork. A lot of things we have to get it clarified. So we use a lot of manpower and all this. But for the man in the street, that includes myself, I am sure we are very, very hesitant because of the increase of 6%.
Okay.
Even your salary, you cannot get an increment of 6%. You are going to spend extra 6%. So I think at least you need 6 months for people to get used to it, and I'm sure and the business will slow down. I foresee our cost in the beginning will rise up because of due to the uncertainty. But in the long run, it shouldn't be. What we are preparing our company is our software systems. We are talking to our suppliers and we clarify all their products tariff to ensure they are under which segment of the taxes. In fact, when we shift into this factory, I'm buying this automation machine which actually save a lot of labor and give you very good consistent quality.
Now, through creativity, through innovation, you have machine less of depending on the foreign workers, for example.
Okay.
And so, this in one way or another can help reducing the capital. They have to have strong perseverance and continue producing. Try to increase export because of the strong US dollar, so that we can bring back the foreign exchange in terms of dollar. This is the right time.
Now that we have discussed various aspects of economy of Malaysia and various factors which influences it coming into the country, it is clearly evident that Malaysia is in the direction of liberal market economy. And Malaysia is of course truly Asia.